everybody about there's been asking, when's NFL come back? When's NFL? Y'all do this. This is the start of it. Football's back in 9 days. 8 days, excuse me. Ooh, 8 days. Man, it's been a long day. But for the 6th consecutive year of doing the NFC preview shows, it's been either Matt Beast or someone else. But this time, it's just the two of us as we get you ready for all things NFC in the NFL in the year 2025.
Yes, sir. It's about that time. And, just a random thought to throw it out there. Netflix has been hyping us up with all these random documentaries they've been throwing out there. I mean, they had the quarterback one, it was solid. They had the SEC one was really good.
I really like that.
I've been watching the Cowboys one. It's been pretty good so far.
The Cowboys one started off slow, but I'm just picking up now. I'm on, I forget the episode. I think it's 3, the one where it's like the changing of the guard from like the 49ers being the powerhouse to like Dallas.
I'm on the exact same episode right now, so I feel you.
Yeah. But I like how they're like talking to Niners players. Like, how like Steve Young's involved, Bill Romanowski.
Yeah.
Like the one guy, Carmen, who was like a big VP with the team or like something to do with player personnel. Like, I like how it's not just, oh, here's Dallas. It's just like, here's Dallas. How it goes beyond, oh, what the Cowboys did. Like, it's not just a Cowboy perspective. It's like a whole, hey, this is the true being of how the Cowboys truly became to be.
True. It's been really solid. And the WWE Unreal on top of that. They've been putting out some good stuff lately. But yeah, that's just a random thought. But yeah, football's coming up. Let's get it.
It is, and another one too that I have no shame in saying I watched is the Dallas Cowboy cheerleader documentary as well. It's it's like a weird guilty pleasure one, but it's like very interesting to see like, look, I know it's not to the same extent as the players, but like how much those girls like work their ass off to like get to be called like a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. That's why too that team's always America's team, because who else's team has a Netflix show about the cheerleading squad,
I mean, that's true. I mean, they've had shows forever. I feel like they had a show even when I was maybe in middle school of people trying to make the Dallas Cowboy cheerleader show. They always make a spectacle of it. That's Jerry Jones for you, Arkansas man.
That's it. And on that note, let's just jump right into it. I didn't know where we were going to go. Obviously, we're going to finish with the NFC South because I got some questions and some stuff for you. But what do we think about the Dallas Cowboys in 2025? The whole NFC East, like I feel like it's kind of like Philadelphia's in a league of their own, and then you have Washington where it's, what are you going to do for an encore? Because we all know, like, hey, it's no longer you're the cute little story. It's, hey, you got the target on your back.
Mm-hmm.
And the Giants are still a mystery because like they could either be bad or they could like surprise people. But I think Dallas is back to what we know them as, and that is finish 10-7 and then get waxed in the playoffs. That's honestly what I think about the NFC East.
Yeah, my big thing, the Giants, of course. I'll start with them. I'm going to kind of go in order of how I think things would go, and then you could probably pivot off of it too.
Yeah, I did the reverse. I did 1-4. You're doing 4-1.
Yeah, something like that. I think the Giants, their main strength, of course, is going to be that defensive line. That defensive line is going to be hammering people.
Better secondary too, though. They got a better secondary now as well.
Yeah, that defensive line is going to be really good. I'm scared when the Saints play the Giants because it's going to be bad for whoever is playing quarterback at that moment. It might still be Spencer Rattler. Who knows? We'll get to that later. But yeah, their defense should be really good. So that'll keep them in games. Russell Wilson, obviously, he's just there until it's time to throw Jackson Dart in there, and Jameis Winston is there for the vibes. You got Jackson Dart. You got Jackson Dart feeding him W's on the sideline. Gotta love it. Jameis, he's just a great locker room guy.
Absolutely.
But I forget where the Giants ended off last season, their win total. But I feel like they'll be a little bit better than last year.
2024 NFC East standings. So they went a miraculous 3-14 last year.
Okay, yeah, they're definitely going to be better than this year. I would almost say double the win total. But I think at some point Jackson Dart's definitely going to be thrust into the fray of things. And I mean, he looked really good in the preseason, so there's that. So Giants fans have something to look forward to, getting Jackson Dart out there. But yeah, I mean, he's going to have a great wide receiver one to throw to in Malik Neighbors. So, yeah, that's the Giants.
My only thing with the Giants is that they have a really late bye and their schedule is not easy. Like they're literally their first 6 games are at the Commanders, at the Cowboys, versus the Chiefs, versus the Chargers, at the Saints, versus the Eagles.
The Saints game will be a pretty cakewalk. I'm not going to lie. But the Cowboys I've already kind of pivoted off to the Cowboys for some reason. So
I mean, I just want to say my piece on the Giants quickly.
Yeah,
I have the same feeling as you, where I'm like, I could see them being like a 6-11, 7-10 football team that their offense, their defense, if they basically are in like low scoring games, like, those 17-14, like 2017, it's when they start getting into shootouts and they have a quarterback on the other side. I don't expect a Russell Wilson or a Jackson Dart to go bar to bar with like a Patrick Mahomes, a Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, etc. Like, I don't expect that. Also, they do play the NFC North as well, so they're going to have to go play Detroit. You're going to have to play Green Bay, Minnesota, etc. So if their defense can show out, that's where I think they'll win football games. It's the games where the offense of the other team kills the defense. I don't know if the Giants' offense, even with Malik Neighbors, who is a dog, I don't know if the rest of the offense has enough to keep up with those level of teams. So I think if you're the Giants, you want to see progress and hope to where then 2026 is the year where, hey, we break through.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the best offense can be a really good defense, and creating turnovers and whatnot. So
exactly.
Cowboys, with their whole documentary and stuff, I feel like they'll be in almost a similar win total as the Giants, honestly. When you mentioned them right off the bat, I did this mainly because what in the world is Jerry Jones doing with Micah Parsons? I know everyone in the world has been talking about that, but just how that's been handled, it's been disastrous. I mean, having him not on the field is going to be rough if it comes down to that.
So my thing with Jerry Jones, and someone actually brought this up yesterday, and it makes a good point. Why aren't like the players talking about it? Like, why isn't Dak saying, "Hey, why aren't we paying him?" or CD Lamb? But then at the same time, too, do you think like Jerry Jones is going to call them and say, like, are they scared of Jerry to not go down that rabbit hole? But my big thing with the Dallas Cowboys is they're going to be the same team as we've seen for years, where I think they'll flirt with like 8, 9, 10 wins. They'll be like either get a wild card spot or be a fringe wild card team, and then we'll see where it goes. Because this year they're not expected to do a whole lot, but even I just pulled up their schedule. They have obviously they're in Philadelphia for the banner ceremony next week to kick off the year. But then they got the Giants week 2, like we were saying with the Giants. Then they have Bears, Packers, Jets, Panthers, Commanders, Broncos, Cardinals. They also have the Chiefs coming in on Thanksgiving this year, which that's a game. If you are the Cowboys, you cannot afford yourself to get embarrassed in a game like that. If you're the Cowboys, they have to be, because if they have another year of borderline mediocrity, what's to say that, there's not, you want to say there's going to be change there, but there's not really going to be change until Jerry puts his ego aside, but we all know when that's going to happen, and I'm not going to say anything else because no, it's serious though. It's like I know you don't watch the product as much anymore, but it's like the whole thing with wrestling where like what WWE was in the 2010s to what it's been the last like 3 years is like night and day different, to where
sure
things make sense. Weird stuff's not going on. I just think Jerry basically admitted in the doc where it's just like, yeah, we didn't know the first thing about owning a football team. He came in
exactly
like the whole shit, how the Tom Landry stuff, Tex Schramm. There was also their PR person. There's a bunch of people where it's like, hey, if you're not with me, you're out of here. So for right now with the Cowboys, I think until there's this level of understanding of like, and also I think Jerry sees this too, where no matter if it's good publicity or if it's bad, he doesn't care as long as you know what, hey, the Cowboys are being talked about and the Cowboys are this like focal point on the news. I don't care what we do. Obviously, look, I do believe he'd still love to get another Super Bowl. But there's that part of him, that like angel devil on his shoulder, but the devil on his shoulder is always saying, hey, they're talking about you. Like, he doesn't care if it's good or bad. It's, you know what, hey, publicity is publicity. And that's all I think Jerry really cares about for the Cowboys. It's like even now how, they got this Netflix documentary. There was the reports of they wanted to sign Parsons before the documentary went live on Netflix to, add to it. So it's like, hey, we have this documentary. We got one of the best defensive ends in football locked up. But there's just so much to it with the Dallas Cowboys that just like,
Oh, yeah.
I need to see it before I believe it. But I think it's either going to be another mediocre 7-10, 8-9 season, or they get in the playoffs and they get bounced in the first round by, like, I don't know if Detroit wins their division again or if they play Philly again. I don't see a world where this team is better than last year. Like, they'll be good because Dak will be there. And I have this take on Dak Prescott, by the way. I want to hear what you think. If he was anywhere else, he would be viewed as a much higher quarterback. It's because he's a Dallas Cowboy. Every simple little mistake he makes is magnified. Meanwhile, all the good plays kind of viewed as like, that's just how I feel about Dak.
It's hard to put it in that scope because that's where he is, and and that's definitely an argument to be had. Because I mean, Tony Romo got a lot of slack, and he was a really solid quarterback. Because to me, he's kind of like in the Kirk Cousins lane.
Yeah,
he's about in that kind of tier of quarterback. I know Kirk Cousins isn't what he used to be from a couple of years ago, but that's where I'd put Dak at. Like,
serviceable.
He's a really good quarterback. Like, if you have him as your quarterback, you're doing good. But it's almost like the barometer. Like, are you a amazing team? Are you a really good team that needs a lot around your team in order for it to succeed? Or are you a bottom of the barrel team? And Dak Prescott's kind of like that barometer to me. But he's a really solid quarterback for sure.
Yeah, that's just the thing, because like with a guy like Dak Prescott, it's just you can only do so much, but it's because of where you play. Like, say for example, if Dak was the quarterback for Jacksonville, just like a not an irrelevant team, but not like this like team who's always viewed as like an A franchise in the NFL, meaning like, hey, you're in a huge market, you're in a popular market, you're in a very demanding market where they know that if they win championships in that market, that he'd be viewed as a god in that market if he were to ever win a title.
Yeah,
But
I mean, if you make Dak the same age as Trevor Lawrence, the Jacksonville Jaguars front office would probably take Dak over Trevor if they're the same age. But yeah. I'd probably have the Cowboys at 7 wins, but I think a lot of it is going to be between them and Washington. Those 2 games where Washington and Dallas play each other, those are going to be a big barometer for who might get a wild card spot, I think.
Week 7 and then week 17, Christmas Day,
Big game.
1 o'clock p.m. Eastern.
That'll be a big game. So that's a very good scheduling there on the NFL side of things, because I think that's going to be could be a playoff deciding game on who gets a 7th or 6th wild card spot, probably. Because I think the Commanders, leaves town. Yeah, loser leaves town match, something like that. Yeah, for sure. Loser gets booted out of the NFC East next season.
Yeah. Good week to be a Washington fan, though, with Terry signing that extension.
Yeah, that's pretty big. I mean, I saw a TikTok the other day of someone making fun of the fact that, these NFL teams have a week deadlines. Now I got to rush to sign everybody, Terry McLaurin and Trey Hendrickson included, and making all these moves, Amari Cooper getting signed. But that's the nature of the beast as you get closer to the season. But the Commanders, Jaden Daniels, obviously, he was really good last season. He kind of just sparked it on and really came into his own, and just kind of shows another LSU quarterback kind of making a name for himself. Will we see another one next season? We'll see. But I mean, Jaden Daniels, he looks really good. The dynasty darling right now, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, however you say his name,
Bill.
JCM.
Bill. He wants to be called Bill. I had this talk last week on my fantasy preview show. He wants to be called Bill.
Bill. Okay. Well, Bill is like the dynasty darling right now. Everyone wants him right now. It's crazy how much hype he's gotten. But I still think Eckler is going to be obviously a facet to that. But a big question for them is, how much is Deebo Samuel really going to do for them?
I think he'll be better because he's not expected to be the guy.
Yeah.
Terry's the guy. Like
Mhm.
Terry's your wide receiver one. You just paid him like a wide receiver one. Debo's more, I think, going to be that like forgotten item where it's like, hey, Debo can still play. Like I'm not saying Debo's going to go out
Yeah.
there and like light the world on fire, but who's there not to say that he's going to have a few solid games?
Yeah, because I mean, he can be a difference maker if he stays healthy and he puts up some good numbers in some games. He could be the difference between them winning and losing
Yeah.
in some cases because that's what kind of player he was. Can he turn back into that? Maybe we'll see with Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin carrying the load. We'll just see if he's able to do that. But I mean, I think this team's going to be pretty solid. Um, I could see him making some moves. I'd probably have them at 9 wins. I feel like you could kind of interchange them in Dallas, just depending on how the season is going for both of those squads.
So they were 12-5 last year. I don't think they're that good this year. I think they're like a 10-win team. Like they'll have a couple losses because looking at their schedule, they have a stretch basically from October until the middle of November where it's at the Chargers, Bears, Cowboys, Chiefs, Seahawks, Lions. And then they go to
Mhm.
Miami, which the boys will be here tomorrow. The boys will be here Friday, excuse me, not tomorrow, to break down all things AFC. If you know, you know. They need to have impressive showings in those games because it's one of those things where if, like, for example, week 8, they're going to Arrowhead on a Monday night. You can't afford to look bad in that game. You have to look good in that game, even if you look good in the loss.
Mhm.
Kind of like, do you remember the Monday night game last year when Tampa went in there and lost in overtime?
Yeah.
Kind of the similar thing, where it's just like, hey, they cover the spread for one, but two, hey, those things matter. Great teams cover. Good teams win. Great teams cover. That's why I have my biases with Kansas City, but that's neither here nor
For
there.
sure.
They're just the kind of team that if they get off to a poor start, because even their start to they play the Giants, the Raiders, the Packers, and the Falcons. They could easily be a 3-1 football team. The one loss maybe being Green Bay or Atlanta, just because when we'll get into both those teams after. But look, Vegas, that should be a win. Giants, you should win. But that's the thing with the Commanders. Win the games you're supposed to, look good in the games that you're supposed to lose, or even, get a couple upsets because they're the kind of team that if they get badly beat in those games, like say, for example, when they play a Kansas City, when they play a Detroit, when they play, they play the Broncos, they get the Vikings, they have the Eagles 2 times on December
Mhm.
20th, my birthday, and the last week of the year. They don't play Philadelphia till week 16. So those are games where you can't afford to look bad because if you do and you're trying to fight for a wild card spot and get in, people are going to think you're going to get waxed in the playoffs immediately.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think Jaden's going to have a sophomore slump. I still think he's going to be good. I just don't know. I think he's one of those players that if he gets off to a slow start, everyone's going to be having those takes like, oh, this and that, and then he just like has that Atlanta game or the Charger game where he like lights the world on fire. So we'll wait and see. But I still think they are going to be a good football team. It's just how good. Just because when you're a surprise and good, it's one thing, but when you're expected to be good, it's a completely
Yeah.
different thing. You and I both have
Yeah.
experiences with that with other football teams.
Yeah, now you got people having more tape on you, people getting more accustomed to what you're doing. Since you play so well, you get a harder play schedule, which I mean, luckily
More
they
prime
still
time.
got more prime time. There's that too. There's more expectations, the pressure's on. All the different narratives you can throw on them. But yeah, I think they'll be pretty solid. I'm looking forward to see how Jaden Daniels does. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to be drawing comparisons to like C.J. Stroud as he was the quarterback darling, and then he went out and had a pretty. He didn't light the world on fire, but he was solid, but he didn't really have that same, for the lack of a better term, as the kids say, aura about him. Um,
Yeah.
um, so yeah, and then you finally have the Eagles.
There's not much to say. Defending champs, they still look good on paper. They're still going to be like, they're one of those teams right now. When you look at it, you're like, yep, they're going to make the playoffs. They're probably going to win. Let me
Yeah.
see how many games they win last year. So last year they went 14-3. I don't ever like to say a team's going to win more than that just because it's really hard to say, like, hey, there's like 15 wins in their schedule. They're going to win at least 12 or 13 games, though, in my
Oh
opinion. 12,
yeah.
12's their floor. I think they're somewhere between 12 and 15 for wins. They're going to be a good football team. It's just really Can you go back to back? And then the other one too is on their schedule. Sure, they have opening night against Dallas. They go to Arrowhead week 2. How do you look against the Chiefs team where, look, you flat out embarrassed them in the Super Bowl? They kind of wrote the code, which, by the way, another documentary, Chiefs. There's a Chiefs one on Disney Plus through ESPN right now. That's a really interesting watch as well.
Man.
That's just my thing with the Eagles is, how do you do with a new? That's the other thing too. We'll talk about with you, new offensive coordinator in Philadelphia with what's the person's name? Kevin Patullo coming in as offensive coordinator, who was with the Tennessee Titans last year as pass game coordinator. Like Philly's just been turning out offensive coordinators. Obviously, Kellen Moore is now in New Orleans, so we'll figure out, hey, how does a new coordinator work? How does this work? How does this work? So my big thing with the Eagles is just, how do you keep adapting year in, year out as you're expected to be this now not gold standard. There's no like the gold standards in the AFC for how do you play football. But how are you as that gold standard in the sense of, hey, you're the defending champions? How do you wear that crown? That's what I want to know with this Eagles squad. Because this one to the one that won in 2018 are two totally different teams.
Yeah, for sure. I got to give props to the Eagles as an organization. I mean, for the past how long, they've always maintained either being great, being good, and if they're bad, they're not bad very long, and they build right back up to where they need to be. So their front office just does a great job of staying relevant and maintaining this certain status quo of consistency. That being said, a lot of their success last year came on the heels of having Saquon Barkley from their division rival.
Yep.
When a running back is such a big focus, and granted, it's not as bad as it was with like the Titans-led Derrick Henry teams. It's always kind of sketchy, and I know Saquon Barkley is amazing. He's the quad god, if you want to call him that. I always feel a little what's the word I'm looking for here? I have some trepidation between putting in like all the chips on the table on a certain team whenever a running back is like such a central focus.
Yep.
Because injuries happen, especially to these running backs that get so many carries. Saquon's had so many carries so far. So something's going to regress a little bit for him, probably. I don't want to wish an injury on him if he's hurt, maybe a game or two. I hope he doesn't get hurt because having Saquon around is good for the league. So hopefully they can manage Saquon Barkley's load. Hopefully that new offensive coordinator has a certain plan in mind. But yeah, this team just consistently is consistent.
Yeah.
The one thing that just burns me up is the fact that Zach Bond went there and he just balled out last season. He was such a good linebacker. How did the Saints just miss something like that? It just blows my mind. I mean, I don't know.
It sucks. It sucks and it's unfortunate, but it's one of those things. It's like you get players sometimes where, hey, it doesn't work in one place, you go to another place, and you realize, oh, hey, this guy can play.
Yeah, and I mean, another facet to them is the fact that they get some things just slide to them that work out in their favor. I mean, you had Jalen Carter fall to them 2 or 3 seasons ago.
Yep.
And I remember the Eagles game last year that they played against the Saints. And I remember we were neck and neck with them. And this is us coming right off of our big 2 wins. And Jalen Carter was the reason they won that game because he was terrorizing our backfield and terrorizing our offensive line. It was insane. But they're just maintain this consistency. They'll still be really good. I'm probably in the camp with you on the same win total. I'd probably put them about 12 wins myself.
Yeah, that's just it. You know what? Judge them. You judge them in January. You're judged by what you do in January. We expect them to win the division. Do what you do in January. I'm gonna go to the NFC West next, just because I feel like it's a very weird division where you have like the Rams always find a way. The Niners are gonna be good, but it's just how good. And then you have the Cardinals and the Seahawks, who are kind of 2 wild cards in a real situation where look, we don't know what to expect from Seattle. They'll probably do the same thing they always do and finish 500 and maybe either just sneak into the playoffs or just miss, or maybe a game or two under, because of the 17th game. And then you have Arizona, who's in a huge make or break year for their coaching staff and management, where it's, hey, you've been here. If this is your third year here, you really got to do something, because 6-11 ain't going to cut it in the Valley. So I'll start with the Cardinals just because I like Kyler. I've always liked Kyler Murray, or had a soft spot for him. But eventually, they need to figure out with him, are you the guy that's going to take us? And I'm not saying to win a Super Bowl. Are you the guy that we can count on again for the next, I don't know, 10 years? Can we we've already put 7 years of stock into you. Can we do another 7, 8, 9?
Years.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel like 7 years that Kyler's been in the league.
7 seasons. 7 seasons.
7 seasons. Yeah, that's insane. Yeah, I agree with you. Kyler, at some point, he's always been a solid quarterback. You have him on your fantasy team. He does good stuff.
He also does stupid stuff, but that's another discussion.
He also does stupid stuff. He can put up some numbers. He's a solid QB, but at some point as a franchise, you want to see your guy take that next step. And that's the big question with him. And that's why they went and got Marvin Harrison Jr. last season. And even he didn't really light the world on fire. He was probably the greatest wide receiver prospect.
I'm super high on him for fantasy this year. I'm super high on him on fantasy for draft value, because I feel like everyone's going to go crazy for, the Brian Thomas Jr.'s, Malik Neighbors, other guys, to where Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be there. I think here's the thing, because you watch college football, you watch SEC, so and you pay attention to so these kids a lot more before they come out. I feel like when NFL personnel and NFL people, quote unquote, start to really watch talent, they see this kid in college and right away, and they hear buzzwords, he's NFL ready, he's tall, he's fast. So most right away, people are going to expect, he's going to come in the league and light the world on fire, to where when he doesn't, people are going to be like, oh, was he worth the draft pick? And I'll say, yes, it's just, he has to get acclimated into the system that he's in. Drew Pensing's also a fantastic offensive coordinator, underrated head coaching name to come up for next year, by the way. But he had an opportunity to interview this year, but he stayed in Arizona. So maybe it's a Bobby Slowick. We don't know. But Arizona has the tools offensively. It's defensively, can they handle it? Because, they have James Conner. They have Trey McBride. They have Marvin Harrison Jr.
For sure. And with Marvin Harrison, it's just crazy because you see all these wide receivers come into the league, and year one, right away, they're amazing in some cases. And when you didn't see the number one hyped up guy go all out and he just had an okay season, it's just left a lot of people just whelmed or underwhelmed. But to your point, he could be a steal if he puts it all together. And Trey McBride, of course, he's a fantastic tight end. But like you said, it's kind of the defensive side of the ball, just seeing if they can put it all together on that side and just put it together as a franchise. That's what they need to do this season.
I think, too, there's somewhere, but I'm going to give a little bit more of a floor ceiling for them. I think there's somewhere between a 6 and 9 win team. I don't think they make the playoffs, but I think they have to be knocking on the door for Jonathan Gannon to get another year, especially, too, the fact that he's a defensive-minded head coach. You have to show signs that, hey, this defense can come alive. This defense can do something, because the defense has been one of their weaker spots over the years. I know they've got some guys. They got Budda Baker. They've got, that's all pretty much what I know on their defense. Then, yeah, and they also added some guys too. They got Josh Sweat as well from the Eagles. So it's like, how do those guys do with Gannon is really going to, and also fun fact, I just remember this too. Do you know a wrestler by the name of Riddick Moss? He was formerly Riddick Moss. He's no longer with WWE. Have you ever heard of the name?
The name sounds slightly familiar.
Because his brother is the defensive coordinator for the Cardinals.
Oh.
That's your wrestling fun fact of the day.
There you go.
And then Seattle's like the same thing, where it's like Dallas to an extent, where it's like they're going to be good, but it's just like how good? Because their offensive line struggles. Offensively, they have Cooper Kupp. JSN, I do think is their best receiver, though. Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Oh, yeah.
And then they have a nice little two-headed monster running back with Charbonnet and Walker. So they're good. They're fine. It's not like, it's kind of like, a restaurant where you're not going to get it's not the best place in the world to go to, but it's consistent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you have one, like if there's one, or even like a pizza, like let's do pizza. Like if you have a local pizza spot, every time I'm going to order from there, it's not the best pizza in the world, but it gets the job done. That's the Seahawks. Maybe sometimes you might be surprised, and the surprise will ultimately come down to, was last year for Sam Darnold a fluke, or is that who he is? That's the biggest question, I think, with the Seattle Seahawks more than anything.
Yeah, that's a huge question. And we've seen this as kind of a theme in the NFL over the past couple of years with all these young guys coming in. And a lot of it is what is the fit on the team that you get drafted into?
Absolutely.
Because if it's god awful, a lot of the times these quarterbacks are going to these awful teams and they're expected to do something right away. And some of those guys just aren't ready to do it all. You have to be a mega star quarterback, like one of the you have to have all the intangibles pretty much, and you have to have all the knowledge, and you just have to be NFL ready day one, and that's a lot to ask of a young quarterback coming into the league. And it obviously didn't work for Sam Darnold at his first destination. And then he went to a more favorable place in Minnesota. And of course, it worked out well. The question is, when he goes from a more favorable position to one that might not be as favorable, but it's probably better than his first situation, will he be fine? I think he'll be fine. Do I think he's going to be lighting the world on fire? Probably not. He's going to be one of those quarterbacks that, is he going to be like a top 18 quarterback in the league? That's the question. And you could probably see that.
I also think too, they're going to be like a 8. They'll win 8 or 9. That's all I'm going to say. They'll be 8 and 9, 9 and 8. They're going to be one of the two. I think they're one of those teams as well where I could see them having like an okay start, like they're 2-2 or like 3-2. And then the rails fall off the tracks to where they're like a couple games under 500, but then they kind of right the ship to where the next year everyone's kind of saying, look at like this. Or it turns into a Tampa Bay Buccaneers situation with Baker Mayfield, where it's just like, holy crap, this guy's really good. He was a 3rd overall pick for a reason. Jets waste talent. Not sorry for that, Danny. But that's kind of the model, that's where I say if the AFC show, there's a lot to get into. That's how I view the Seahawks, where it's just, hey, you're good right now, but are you going to regress or are you going to keep moving forward? That's the big question. And then the next team, we got the Rams, because I'm going to say this because I have a hot take. I think the 49ers do win the West. I think that last year was just, I think, a bad fluke year for them because they have this. Because I don't know if you've ever noticed this or not with the Niners. They either have their seasons either go one of two ways. They miss the playoffs or they go to the NFC Championship game ever since Kyle Shanahan's gotten there. It's a very weird, like, talk about opposite ends of the spectrum where it's like, hey, you're either going to the game to get you to the Super Bowl, making a Super Bowl, or you miss the playoffs. And I just think that there's a lot of pressure there too because there's not a lot of weapons there. But I do still I buy Brock Purdy. I'm not saying he's a top quarterback, but he can't lose them games, because if he loses them games, that contract just looks bad. It's, hey, we gave you the money you wanted. Now go show us why you're worth it. The other thing too why I'm high on them, their defense is back with Robert Saleh has returned as defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
So I think they're in that similar situation where it's like the Giants to an extent, where it's like that defense is going to be so ferocious to where it's going to win the football games. I just think with them, it's more about Brock can't lose you football games. That's the big question mark for me is, can Brock Purdy avoid the plays that would play losing football? And how does how does Christian McCaffrey respond this year? How does a older George Kittle look this year? So they've got a lot of questions, but I do think the 49ers are going to be a good team. Will they go to the Super Bowl and challenge the Eagles? I don't think so. But they're still going to be one of those teams that when I look at right now, they're in like that Washington where like they'll probably be a playoff team. If they'll either win the division or they'll be a wild card team. I don't think they miss the playoffs this year.
Yeah, a big thing for the 49ers is their wide receiver room is going to be the big question. I mean, of course, we already talked about him earlier with Debo, and then there's also the question of the injury with Brandon Ayuk. So their wide receivers right there are kind of done. But that's when they have Underrated star Juwan Jennings. Let's see if he can still carry the load. And he always likes to spring up randomly. They have the Saint that played decent last season, MBS. And then, of course, they have their first round draft pick, Ricky Parasol. That's going to be the big question mark. If he can go out there and have a solid, really good season, be kind of like the Lad McConkey was for the Chargers last season. If he could do that and show that he can be a complementary third weapon behind McCaffrey, which McCaffrey, a big thing with him is just staying healthy, staying on the field. That's part of why they went and traded for Brian Robinson Jr. But if Christian McCaffrey can stay on the field and they can stay away from the injuries are always the big thing for them. If they can stay away from the injuries, they should be fine. And if Ricky Parasol, of course, can carry the load, that'll be the big thing. But I mean, the biggest cheat code for them was Brock Purdy was like a penny on their books for the past couple of years, and now they don't have that cheat code anymore. So I know every front office in the NFL wishes they had that situation, but it probably will never happen again for another decade and a half, until a quarterback that goes that late just really shines through. But we'll see if that ever comes about. But yeah, the 49ers, a big thing on them is just seeing how the injury dice rolls this time around.
It's like, may the fortune brave the bold, or like whatever. May the odds ever be in your favor. It's the Hunger Games quote.
Yeah.
Which then you have the team in Southern California, the Rams, to where, I don't know, Matthew Stafford apparently threw his back out. I can make a joke, but I'm not, just because, they said he did it at home. Not judge, wink, wink.
No.
But with the Rams, they're going to have a good football team. It's just they're the big ones with the injury, because Jimmy Garoppolo might be getting serious reps for starting quarterback. Former Georgia Bulldog Stetson Bennett's he had some very serious looks in camp to where it doesn't look like he's going to be QB3. It looks like, hey, he's going to be QB2. It's wild, not to the extent, but Aaron Donald retires, and then they find Jared Verse in the draft last year, who's just an absolute monster for them. So they have the Rams, too. Very underrated addition to in Devontae Adams as well, where I think the same thing as Debo applies, where it's just, hey, I like to do this with like Puka, bro, like, because like the whole Hawaiian thing where it's like that. So it's like hang loose, where it's like you have Puka, you have Kyron Williams, you have Devontae Adams, so they're going to be solid. But and by the way, my floor, like for the Niners, I'll say this: I think they're anywhere from like a 9 to 12 win football team as long as everything goes right. The Rams are the same thing. I think one of those two, it's going to be 1 and 2. Whoever wins the division, one will win the division, one will get a wild card spot. That's how I feel. It's just with the Rams' uncertainty at quarterback with Stafford, I will take a Purdy over Garoppolo or Bennett. But if Stafford was fully healthy, I'd be saying Rams 100%. It's just the back injury, and he's 37. You and I are both in our 30s now, so we know, look, hey, the body doesn't work the same, so I can only imagine what a 37-year-old quarterback's going through.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Shout out to the fellow Matthew out there, Matthew Stafford. Hopefully he can bounce back and come back into the fray of things. But yeah, that you hit the nail on the head with the Devontae Adams, Debo Samuel thing that we alluded to earlier. And I do want to shout out the Jared Verse thing. I mean, the fact that they went out and got that guy right after Aaron Donald, and the fact that he was their first round selection in many years.
Since Jared Goff.
That's insane. I mean, and the fact that they hit on it like that's a testament to just kind of waiting around. And I mean, they've had a knack of finding these young guys. I mean, Kyron and Puka, as an example, that just contribute to their squad, even though they didn't have those draft picks for so many years. And I mean, thank God for their front office. I'm sure they were wiping the sweat off their foreheads when they actually did win a Super Bowl. Because they actually did turn that into something for giving up everything. So people were waiting for that turnaround to come around. And I mean, you even had the rumors of Sean McVay maybe retiring at one point, but obviously he's one of the best head coaches for a reason. And they just kept on trucking, to their credit. And so many people were writing them off. But yeah, I can see them being pretty solid and consistent. They could definitely be contending for that wild card. And I think I do agree with the 49ers winning the division as long as the injury dice roll well. Yeah, that's kind of my take on them, I guess.
Yeah, that's just pretty much it with both teams, where it's like both are going to be good. It's just who fortune braves the bold, I think was the expression I was looking for. But yeah, it's pretty much just like, you know what, hey, playing the injury game is like playing roulette, where it's like it's going to end on red, it's going to end on black. You're either going to win with injury luck or you're going to lose with injury luck. And last year the Niners lost, so it's really an interesting thing right now on like how do they rebound, because the Rams start with the Texans, and if Stafford's in there, the Texans have some rather large humans on their defensive line with guys like Will Anderson. So it's going to be like, have fun with that. And then with CJ Stroud and his weak offensive line, you have guys like Jared Verse. There's another rookie last year too who they had that I'm going to look it up because it's going to bother me if I don't get it right. But they had another rookie last year who was a dog for them on the defensive line as well. So I'm going to vamp while I look that up. But no, the Rams have a lot. They have a lot of good going for them. It's just really, the how good are you? That player was, where is he? Braden Fisk. That's who it was. And they also have him. They have Kobe Turner as well.
Yeah.
Tyler Higbee as well is another really good running back, tight end that they have. And then they also have Tutu Atwell, who's a really good speed guy, and then Blake Corum running the ball as well. So the Rams are in a good position. It's just until I see a healthy Rams is when I'm gonna like lean the other way with the lean with the Niners. That's all.
For sure. I agree with you.
And then the NFC North, the NFC North's a very weird division just because last year 3 of the teams were very surprising in how they did. Detroit in the sense of 15-2, like I knew they were going to be good. I didn't think they'd be that good. But it's the Chicago Bears, and I'm going to say this boldly with my chest. I'm not going to make a solid prediction on them to do anything crazy until they show me. They are the team where I'm like, I need to see it before I believe it. I'm not going in blind again with the Chicago Bears. Like last year, I was like, hey, maybe they flirt with the playoff spot. Maybe they don't. I still don't think they do, but they are one of those teams where if they were to get in and surprise people, it would not shock me in the slightest. It's just I physically can't until I see the Bears do something. I just can't go and be like, yeah, the Bears are going to be good. No, I need to see the Bears be good before I buy the Bears being good. So for right now, I would have them finishing 4th. It's just because I need to see it from you. With that being said, though, they can win 5 or 6 games again. They could shock the world and win 10. I don't know. It's just I need to see it from them and Ben Johnson, because I feel like the Bears are like the Cowboys in the sense where every year their fans get a little too excited, not to the extent of Super Bowl, but to the extent of, oh, the Bears are back. Oh, the Bears this, the Bears that. I need this from an outsider. I need to see them do it before I say a single word about them being good. Because that week 1 game, I'm going to be all eyes on for that Monday nighter that they have against the Vikings.
Oh yeah, week 1 against Vikings and week 2 against Detroit. Those are going to be really telling games for what we can see with the Bears. If they come out 1-1 out of that split and go on and beat Dallas and Vegas going into the bye and go into the bye at 3-1, I think there's going to be a lot of narratives about the Chicago Bears floating around. But to your point, me included, I think a lot of people included, we're riding that Bears train as a possible wild card team, just because of how juicy that offense looked and how much merit they put in there. And then the offensive line kind of waned a little bit on them, but they put a lot of stock into the offensive line. They still continued to invest heavily in the offense, spending high draft capital on Colston Loveland, and then going out and get Luther Burden III as well to add to a wide receiver
in fantasy.
Yeah, for sure.
With my last
With already a stacked wide receiver room with Rome Odunze and DJ Moore. So they're definitely doing their best to kind of put all that stock in there. Yeah. And then they went and got Ben Johnson. So ideally, you should think they should be that team.
I just can't buy it. I can't buy it until I see it.
I definitely agree with you. So on paper, they look like that team that we were talking about last season.
Yep.
We just have to see it come through now. We have to see it executed on the field. That's the question, because people are going to be like you and me here, where we are skeptical after what happened last season and after all the things we put in there. But we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They're under a new coach. They did some more investments in where they needed to. Let's see how it goes. I am optimistically, cautiously hovering my finger over the buying stock in the Bears.
So from Thanksgiving, because they play on Black Friday to the end of the year, at Philadelphia, at Green Bay, Cleveland, Green Bay, San Francisco, Detroit.
That's a pretty rough stretch.
That will make or break you. If they can,
yeah.
That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 4. That's 6 games. If they can go 3-3 down that stretch, that's where they'll win people. If you go anything worse than 3-3, that's where you lose people. I just want to go back to the NFC West for a second, because with San Francisco and LA, because one finished first last year, one finished fourth. LA, because of that, has to go play Baltimore, Detroit, and Philly. The Niners get the Giants. They get the Giants, they get the Cleveland Browns, and they get I'm trying to find it on here, the Giants. Oh, and they get the Bears. So, you know what? For the 49ers, it's just a world of difference of, hey, between playing, 3 powerhouses in the league to playing 3 teams who, aren't really powerhouses. But no, Chicago too, like, even because their schedule every year, they're not like an icon. They're an iconic franchise, but they're like a marquee franchise to where they're always going to get primetime games no matter how they are. Like this year, week 1, they get Monday Night Football. Week 6, they have a week 5 bye, which really messes with them, but they get week 6 at the Commanders primetime. They get the Eagles game is the Black Friday Amazon Prime game. And then week 17, that San Francisco game, that game is Sunday Night Football. So they only have really 3 primetime, and then they have a bunch of like 325, like they have week 3 against the Cowboys. That's another game right there where I call that the Are We Sure They're Good Bowl, where I know it's week 3, but that game right there, we're going to find out, hey, what are the Cowboys? What are the Bears? So with the Bears, like, they have the tools to be good. It's just kind of like, hey, it's basically like last year was kind of like giving Caleb Williams a sports car, and it's like, hey, here are the keys. We expect you to drive it. And he crashed the car going 5, and they were 4-2, but they went 1 and 10 after that. Now it's kind of like, hey, you know what? We brought it. We're giving you the same car. Someone's showing you how to drive it. Take what you've learned from Ben and apply it. Because the other thing with the Bears too is they have new coordinators all across the board. They have your guy Dennis Allen's their DC now. But the most intriguing one for them is they have a man named Declan Doyle, who's their OC, who was born in the year 1996. So that makes me feel old. I know there's players that are much younger than me in the league, but when coaches are born in the 1990s, it really puts a sting in my thing. They also have Press Taylor. They have JT Barrett's their quarterbacks coach. Eric Bieniemy there. Antoine Randall L. They have some really good coaches on this staff to where it's like, hey, put it together and get it done.
Yeah, and I mean, Dennis Allen is right where he needs to be, just being a defensive coordinator. So defense should theoretically be solid, just based on that, in my opinion.
Yep. And then third place, I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings just because I don't know how good they'll be, but at the same time, too, they're not going to go 14-3 again. They're going to
probably not.
They'll. I think they're going to be a team like Seattle. Ironically, Sam Darnold. They'll flirt with a wild card spot, but I could see them missing out on the playoffs unless JJ McCarthy is the kid that we saw at Michigan. But we all have to remember too, JJ McCarthy, unreal Michigan team. Who's the other quarterback that was like that in college? There's quarterbacks like that in college. Like, you know how like Tua is, how Bryce Young is, how Mac Jones was, where you went to a great college, like, even though those were Alabama examples, but still, you're surrounded with NFL caliber talent. JJ McCarthy was more or less, hey, hand the ball off to Blake Corum. Hey, get it to Player X, get it to Colston Loveland. You know, you have a great defense. Just don't screw it up. That's what I want to know with JJ McCarthy. You were supposed to be a rookie last year. You weren't because you had that serious injury. And now it's just, hey, what are you? So it's the same sort of thing with the Vikings, with the Bears, to where it's not so much the Vikings have pressure. It's JJ needs to show the world why he was worth the draft position that he was taken at.
Yep. If JJ McCarthy goes out and balls out, Kevin O'Connell, man, he just
back-to-back coach of the year.
It would just demonstrate just how well he puts his team in a position to succeed. Jordan Addison's going to be suspended to start the season. They just actually today went out and got Adam Thielen
They
back.
brought back Adam Thielen.
Yeah, they brought back Adam Thielen. So I guess he's going to kind of anchor the ship while Jordan Addison's out. Of course, they have Jettis. But yeah, I mean, funny enough, JJ McCarthy, he's going to be my QB1 on my main dynasty league because that's where I'm putting all my stock in. The fact that he's on the Vikings, he's throwing to one of the best wide receivers in the league, if not the best. I put a lot of stock in that. I put a lot of stock in Kevin O'Connell as a head coach, and just the way the Vikings seem to always have their quarterbacks in just these great positions since he's taken over. So that's going to be my big thing I'm going to be watching, seeing how good JJM is going to be doing for this Viking squad. And that's going to be the big question for them is, do they have their quarterback ready to go? They let Sam Darnold walk. Sam Darnold put up good numbers for him last season. They said, hey, we got this rookie. We're going to ride with him. Let's see if they made the right decision.
Even them too. So they have their first 2 games of the year in prime time. They have at the Bears on Monday Night Football, and then week 2 they have the Atlanta Falcons coming to town on Sunday Night Football. So for them, it's a big test too of like, hey, how do you handle this? Then they have, let's see, this 1, 2, 5 of their first 7 games are in prime windows. 2 of them being in Europe. So you know what I mean, where it's like you're the sole game on. Like they go to Europe to play. They play
at the morning game.
They back-to-back them, though. They play the Steelers in Ireland, and they play Cleveland in London. But then they have their bye, and then they have the Philadelphia Eagles, and then they have at the Chargers, and then at the Lions. So, and even too, week 3, they host the Cincinnati Bengals. So I feel like with Minnesota, we're going to find out quickly who they are. We're going to find out, hey, are you what you were last year, or was last year a complete fluke? We're going to find out very early with the Vikings. So I'll say this with them, though. I think they're 7 to 10 wins, somewhere in there. I don't think they're going to be a great team. I don't think they're going to be a bad team. They'll be good. They'll be good.
Yeah, I'd probably put them at 8 myself, but yeah, I could see that for sure.
I just say that as like, that just that window. That's where I have them in.
Yeah.
And then we have the Green Bay Packers, which, look, week 1, the same thing with them. They have their first 4 games. I have Cleveland in there, which we all kind of know where Cleveland's going to be. But they have the Lions, the Commanders, and then they have at the Cowboys, which same thing too. 3 of their first 4 games, or actually, let me rephrase that because they have a week 5 bye. So 5 of their first 6 are all in prime windows, because then after the bye week, they have the Cincinnati Bengals at 3:25. They have the Arizona Cardinals at 3:25. Oh, and then here's the other kicker. Week 8, they have at the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday Night Football, where Pittsburgh will be wearing those god-awful yellows. And then they also, yeah. So that's my take right now with the that's my take right now just with the Packers is like, how do you play? What do we expect? I'm just thinking they're second right now because consistency. They're always consistently good, but they're not consistently great. I'm going to put them at 10 and 7. I think Jordan Love's a great quarterback. They should have kept Taylor Elgersma on the roster. That's another discussion for another day. But you know what? They're still going to be a fine football team. I don't see any warts with them. It's just really, how do you play against the big dogs of your conference?
Yeah, you really want to see someone on that offense step up and be that alpha dog, and that's probably why they finally spent a first-round draft pick on a wide receiver in Matthew Golden. Shout out to another Matthew.
Matthew's getting love today.
I know, right? And then you kind of just want to see Jordan Love kind of expound on what he could be. And that's why they probably went out and actually spent a first-round draft capital on a wide receiver, because when you look at their wide receiver room, personally, just me, when I look at it, I'm just like, these are a lot of solid guys. There wasn't anyone that really stood out. So it made sense for them to go out and draft one. But yeah, they're kind of that team where they're just kind of like,
they're there.
I don't want to say middling, because they're always kind of like right on that cusp.
Yes.
It's just kind of uninspiring and unexciting. But we'll see what they can do this season.
That's just it. It's just like, hey, what was I going to say? We know that they can be good, but it's just how good can they be? It's what's the ceiling of the Green Bay Packers? Is it a 10-7 season and you lose in the wild card round, or you get lucky and you would lose in the divisional round? Or hey, do you catch lightning in a bottle and maybe you go on a little run that no one expects? That's where I think the Green Bay Packers key is. And then
Sure.
and then we bleed into the Detroit Lions, where it's going to be very different. I think there's going to be
Yeah.
growing pains there. I think that there's going to be some uncomfortable, some games where like the fan base gets uneasy, like we said too, because also that Green Bay game they play is week 1 CBS, so it's going to be Nance and Romo calling the game. So with both teams, it's like I don't know, Jim, but it's a very good game to watch, and even with them too, like they have their first, so they have the bye week 9, but their first few games in the of the season at the Packers versus the Bears, at the Ravens versus the Browns, at the Bengals, at the Chiefs, Buccaneers, which they have 2 games at 1 o'clock, and the rest are either at 4:25 or primetime, including the Buccaneers game, which is a 7 o'clock kickoff because I believe that'll be a doubleheader. At the Ravens is Monday Night Football. At the Bengals will be a probably a Brady and Kevin Burkhardt game, and then the Chiefs is Sunday Night Football. So for me with the Lions, really is just it's going to look different, but I don't think it's how different does it look, because the way they exited the playoffs last year was truly just, I don't want to say embarrassing, but I want to say embarrassing, because you're 15-2 and you let the Commanders kind of come in and just, feed you your
Yeah.
lunch. Like just they skunked you. So for me with with Detroit, it's just what are you going to be? What are the Detroit Lions? Because they're expected to do good. They're expected to be great because they're one of those
Mhm.
teams. We're not going to judge them until January. So for me, it's just how is getting to January. Can you stay healthy? Because their defense was, they had like a full roster
Decimated.
they had a full roster of defense on IR last year.
They had you and me out there playing defense.
We were playing nickel, corner, and safety. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Sam Laporta. The offensive line is going to be a little bit weaker. How does Jared Goff play? That's my only question with the Lions is just how loud is your roar going to be? That's my big question with the Lions. By the way, with their record, I don't think they'll be 15-2, but I can see them being, 12-5, 13-4. They're going to be fine. I think there could just be one of those teams, where it's like week 5, say if they lose to Kansas City and they like go to like 3-2 or like 2-3, and everyone's kind of like, or week 6. So it's like they're 3-3 after week 6, and everyone's kind of like, oh, do we hit the panic button on the Lions? And then they ring off like, 4 or 5 games in a row, and everyone's like, oh, nope, they're fine. That's what I think Detroit's going to be.
I don't really know if I feel so strongly about the other teams in this division where I'm just like, yes, because kind of just from a narrative standpoint, I kind of want to fade the Lions a little bit. Not like saying I'm putting them out of the playoff picture. I kind of want to fade them into a wild card spot, just because I am really concerned because of how their coaching structure works. They're not necessarily Dan Campbell is that leader guy. He's not the X's and O's guy that Ben Johnson is. They lost their defensive coordinator. It's just a testament to how good those 2 coaches are. They both went on to be head coaches for other teams, and losing those 2 guys, that's going to hurt so much. A big thing for them, like you alluded to with the defense, their defense was so decimated. So they should see an upswing in that sense, since their defense is they should be on the right side of the injury bug this year, the injury pendulum. How we kind of alluded to that with the 49ers. They should be on the right side of that. And the fact that they had such a good season last season and they were on the wrong side of that, I think those 2 are going to kind of cancel each other out. So I guess at this point, I'm going to have to still put them probably winning the division with like 11 to 12 wins. It's going to be a dogfight, I think, for some of these between them and the Packers, probably. But just because their roster is so well built up, they did a fantastic job of building this roster with some really good offensive pieces.
One from Arkansas.
For sure. One from Arkansas. And then even having their defense get better and stay on the field more as a whole unit is going to be thing that they're going to have to watch out for.
Yeah, like when I say Detroit's going to be fine, like I'm not saying like I think they're gonna like when I say they'll be like 10-7, 11, like 10-7, like with Green Bay and Detroit at 12-5. I could totally see that where it's like a struggle to where you're not guaranteed to win the division, but I'm still going to pick them because of the recent body of work and the history that is shown. I know a lot of Lions fans are excited for I believe Tasala is how you say his last name, Isaac, the wide receiver. I know a lot of Lions fans are excited to see him. Like I said, he's from Michigan, but he did go to Arkansas for 2 seasons. So they have pieces there. It's just really, I still wonder when they play a really good defense, what's the offense going to look like? That's my big question. And how is the defense going to look? Because their defense can shut people down, but then they can also get into these goofy Big 12 shootouts from like 2010s, like the game when what was it? Patrick Mahomes and Texas Tech played Baker Mayfield, and it was like 55-50. Those kind of games. Like actually, I'll give you a better example. When Eli and Drew played in that game 10 years ago, and it was like, I think, 52-49? Do you know the one I'm talking about?
Sorry, I lost my audio for a minute. I don't know if I can hear you now. So there it goes. That's why I might have overheard yourself for a second there. But I lost you for a solid second there.
So I was saying the only thing with Detroit's defense besides health that's a concern is the fact that they can either. Do you remember the Saints-Giants game from 2015 where you guys won?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 52-49. That's the Lions' kind of problem, though, as to where they can either get into games where they allow points at high and they rely on their offense to bail them out. How does the offense play in games when it gets crazy like that? Because Detroit Lions overs are a fun bet to take. It's just I don't know if it's a formula for winning football come January time. So that's the only qualm I have with the team. Is just how do you play against the best teams and how do you look with a new regime at the helm? I know Dan Campbell's still there, but at the same time too, Aaron Glenn's gone, Ben Johnson's gone, and Ben Johnson took a lot of staff with him. Plus, Terrell Williams is now the DC in New England. But guys, New England show come tomorrow night. Sophie McGarvin and I we're gonna chat it up.
Yeah, just ask Joe Burrow and the Bengals how that strategy goes.
Oh, yes. Jesse Bates to Dax Hill. Bad downgrade. NFC South time. We're going to open up with it. Spencer Rattler was announced as starting quarterback. I only say that because I know the position that the Saints are in, where it's kind of like exploring the wilderness, where it's just there's nowhere to go. Like, look, you want to go up. You want to be positive. You want to be this. I just think for a team in New Orleans' position, if they were to, flirt with 6-7 wins again, I don't know how well it services them to where if they can be in a top 5 draft pick to where either you can trade with a desperate team who's looking for a quarterback if you see what you like from Tyler Shaw, or you get your quarterback in the future, whether it be Arch Manning, Garrett Nussmeier, Cade Klubnik, another one too that I don't think a lot of football fans are key to yet, but I was because of the SEC talk, but Lenore Sellers from South Carolina. Yeah. I just think the Saints are in a transition period where you also have a lot of guys who are retiring. Like I do think Cam's on the back. Cam's almost done his career. I think Demario Davis is on his way out. And I'm not saying anything bad. I'm just saying, you know what? Hey, these guys that Saints fans have grown to love and admire are retiring. It's the first time a true new regime from a coaching standpoint is in there in almost 20 years. So I think this year's just about growing pains and finding out, hey, what are the Saints going to be for the next 5 to 10 years? It's kind of like where the Patriots were a couple years ago, where it's just because I'll say this too, there's being bad on accident and there's being bad on purpose. Bad on accident is something you do not want to do in sports just because, it's when you think you're good and, oh, no, turns out we're bad. No, I think the Saints are one of those teams where it's bad on purpose and it's going to suck, but it will only benefit you in the long run, especially with all these guys retiring. Like, look like Tyrann Mathieu, where everyone was saying like, oh, this. I think that was just like, hey, the body isn't what it once was. Ryan Ramczyk, that's a very unfortunate retirement just because injuries suck. And then Jimmy Graham too, which like I said, I thought he'd already retired. So the Saints do have some soul searching to do, some exploring to do to figure out, who we are. But it's just really up to Kellen Moore to kind of show that, hey, I'm the right guy for this. It's going to be it's got a couple of lean years, but like hopefully we can come back out on top again to give New Orleans a team they're truly proud of.
Yeah, it was definitely exciting to get Kellen Moore. I kind of knew we weren't going to get Ben Johnson, and then I really didn't want Aaron Glenn because it was going to feel like Dennis Allen all over again, kind of. So I'm glad we went with Kellen Moore. Getting the young offensive coach is always the way to go, in my opinion. I was listening to my take on them last season, and I was going into the season thinking they were going to be really mid, and I projected them for 6 wins. So I was 1 game off. And unfortunately, a lot of the league was bad last season.
Yes.
Which irked me so much because for the longest time, how you said, I really like how you phrased it, bad on accident. The Saints were really mid on accident because they kept saying, oh, we're 1 piece away. We're right there. Right after Drew Brees left, right after Sean Payton left, they still felt they were right there. Maybe, but 1 or 2 injuries, it was toast. That's the way it was last season. We just had all these injuries pile up in different key aspects where you couldn't even really fairly judge Spencer Rattler. The offensive line was god awful. The wide receiver room was hurt. It was just not a fun time to be playing offense for the New Orleans Saints last season. We ended up at the 5 wins. I hated it because we ended up still picking around 11 to 12. That was the worst season they've had in a while. I think this season's going to be worse. They traded off who was the best player on the team, Marshawn Lattimore, last season. He's kind of taken a down step, so it might have been it was probably a good trade. In my mind, it was a good trade when we did it to get the extra draft picks because I've been wanting the Saints to go into a rebuild for the past 2 years. Yep. So we're finally reaching that point where we're doing that. So the main question here as a Saints fan is, do we have a quarterback that we feel good about? Right now, I say no. Just going through this whole preseason, we were, I think, kind of the last ones to really name our starting QB. And that's because neither of these 2 guys really just took the helm and ran with it. It was just, you hear in camp that they're doing fine, they're doing good. And then when they get on the field, Spencer Rattler starts the first game. He just does okay. And then Tyler Shuck comes in. He plays pretty good.
Yep.
And then the next game, Tyler Shuck doesn't play very great in starting. Spencer Rattler comes in and he probably puts together one of the better drives he's had. And then the same thing last week. Spencer Rattler starts, looks ho-hum. Tyler Shuck comes in, he looks fine. To me, I just saw we have a quarterback that can – we have 2 quarterbacks on our roster that can play good against backups. That's kind of harsh to say, but it's what it looks like. Especially given how many games Spencer Rattler won last year, which was none. But like I said, it's kind of harsh to judge him on that. So I think the strategy's fine. You want to go with the guy who's a little bit more experienced, not really that more experienced. And Spencer Rattler, get him out there. And if he doesn't play that well, then you put Tyler Shuck in. And that's probably the way to go, because if Tyler Shuck started and didn't play well, you'd be clamoring for Spencer Rattler, and that just buries Tyler Shuck. And I'll pass it off to you here in 2 seconds. I gotta get this off. The one thing that annoys me about some of the moves they made, Tyler Shuck is a rookie quarterback, yes, but he's 26 years old. This man was in college as a super mega senior. Unfortunately, he had all these injuries that kind of derailed his college career, and he was kind of stuck to that, which honestly, if I'm going down this rebuild rabbit hole, I would like a really young quarterback who I feel good about. When we drafted Tyler Shuck, I was just like, really? This guy? Maybe he proves me wrong. I would love it if he proves me wrong. But right now, I don't feel very vindicated by it. And the fact that we also traded for Devon Vele, good player, but he's also in this Tyler Shuck camp where he is like 27 in his second year in the league, and we traded a 4th-round pick for him. It irks my soul.
It irks. I love that. It irks the soul. So I was just like looking at the roster while you were talking, just to like get up and down with it. But my thing with Spencer Rattler starting is simple. Because if you start Shuck and Shuck is just not a good quarterback, you can't play him, you're screwed. That's the thing. You have to figure out first, hey, let Rattler play. And then if Shuck comes in, hey, Shuck's fine. It's an okay situation. It's kind of like the Patriots were in the exact same situation last year. That's why Jacoby Brissett started the season, because if you trotted Drake May out there and Drake May wasn't ready yet, which look, he looks awesome this year, but that's like I said, I have a lot of takes on fire. This is NFC. I'm waiting for Patriots to do that. The thing with the Saints in that situation is because you really screw over Tyler Shuck if you throw him into the lion's den, for lack of a better word, or in this case, into the birdcage, because y'all start with the Cardinals week 1. The big thing with the Saints is just, like I said, figure out your identity, figure out what you need, figure out what you're good in, figure out what you're bad in, and then go from there. I saw Garrett Nussmeier's dad, Doug, is your OC. Brandon Staley's the DC. So I think it's a position with the Saints where a lot of fans, I don't think, are going to be fully ready for what the team is. But I think that there's a sense of like, hey, let's figure out the identity of the team, because it's going to be a new identity that we can build off of and look ahead to the future for. That's all this year is about the Saints. Just, you know what? Hey, figure out what we have, figure out who we are, and then build from there. Because like I said, there's guys who are going to retire. There's a quarterback situation to figure out. And then you got some other pieces too. Like, is Chris Olave going to be here long-term? Is Alvin Kamara going to be here long-term? Because he's getting up there in age, which I hate saying that because he's only 30 and I'm 31.
I know, it's gross.
It's honestly, it's so gross. Like hearing like, oh, Chris Jones is old, and I'm like, Chris Jones is born in 93. I'm 93. What the hell does that say about me? But you know what I mean? That's the thing with the Saints this year, where it's just, hey, figure out where you are, figure out what you need, and go from there. So where you look at 2026 to where you can try to take that step, because the NFC South is the most intriguing division in football, because you have what we're going to move into now in the Carolina Panthers, a team where I want to say that they're doing fine, but they have such a loose cannon of an owner to where they could have a mediocre season and David Tepper just walks in and cleans house with Dave Canales and Dan Morgan. But they're basically giving Bryce Young everything to succeed. It's just now up to him if he succeeds or not. I like the Carolina Panthers in the sense of like, I think they can do stuff. It's just hopefully ownership stays out of the way. And you know what? I don't think they make the playoffs, but I think they have to be a thorn in the side. Like, you can't just, go 5-12 or 6-11 and be like, yeah, we looked good. But no, I think you need to be in that like 7-8 win mix to seriously consider that. Otherwise, with Bryce Young, next year's a make or break a year for him.
Yeah. And real quick, just to put it in a nice little bow on my Saints thoughts.
Yeah.
Offensive line's already wrecked. all of our backups, they're all hurt. We've already had to trade Dallas for a backup guy. I feel like the defense is going to be okay. We'll see how Brandon Staley does. That'll be interesting to see. We've lost Honey Badger on the defense. We'll soon be losing, like you said, DeMario and Cam.
Those are just age things, by the way. Those are just age.
Yeah. And we'll be leaning more towards the youth movement, which will be exciting to see. But I feel like the offensive line isn't going to be too much improved because of all these injuries. Trevor Penning hasn't really panned out. We've moved him to guard now. I just want to see Tali Fuaga and Kelvin Banks hold up the bookends and play well. And I just want to answer the question, do we have a quarterback on our team? That being said, 3 wins. If that, we'll be lucky to get 3 wins, I think. The probably ceiling is 6, but I'm going to say we're going to be winning 3 to 4 games. The Panthers, moving on to them. I remember early in the last season, I feel like there was this one game that Bryce Young was playing. It was either, I think it was like last season, but he just threw like an interception. And even as a Saints fan, I felt bad for the guy because he kind of just goes out there and he kind of just doesn't show this much emotion on the field, but he just looks so defeated at one point. And then he comes back and he actually puts together a solid campaign towards the end. So that being said, they have to answer the question, is Bryce Young their guy? So they went out and got Teteroa McMillan, who I was really high on coming into the season. I don't think I was as high on him as like a Marvin Harrison Jr. coming in the last season, but I felt like Teteroa is going to be pretty good. So yeah, they just have that question to ask, and that's a lot of questions that these teams have to ask themselves. So it's a common theme: is do we have the guy that we want to roll with? Because that's the centerpiece of it. So that's my initial thoughts on them.
The other thing too is the fact that they also have they need to see something from Xavier Legette. Chuba Hubbard got a
Yeah.
nice contract as well, but Xavier Legette's a big one for me. Just because of everything that's to be involved with just what's going on with the Panthers. Like they have the positions to succeed and be good in. It's just really, what are you going to be? That's my big thing with the Panthers. Is just who are you? What's your identity? And how does Bryce go year to year?
Yes.
You're going to hate me for saying this, but I really think that if Atlanta is to take the next step, this is the year to do it. I do think that Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot, these are huge years for them. I think if they miss the playoffs, it's a full house cleaning in Atlanta with a new staff because, Arthur Blank at a drop of a dime will do anything too. He's not been the same since Super Bowl 51. No, not sorry there. But I buy Michael Penix stock, honestly. I buy the stock. I buy Bijan Robinson. I buy Drake London. So I do think it's them or Tampa to win the division. I'm going Tampa. I'm going to make this a little bit of a combo one here. I think with the Buccaneers as well, they're just a team that's shown it and proven it that they can win this division for years now. I think they've won 21, 22, 23, 24. They've won 4 straight NFC South championships. So for right now, because I feel like the Buccaneers too are the team that people always just forget about, So like why I say Mike Evans is just underappreciated because I feel like every year people forget about him and then he just, boom, another casual 1,000 yards. They lost Chris Godwin's not going to be back right away. They added Emeka Ibuka. They have Jalen McMillan. They have Bucky Irvin. That defense is just, my God, that defense is dogs. I do think if there is a dark horse for the Super Bowl, it is the Buccaneers. But going back to my point with Atlanta, I think they'll be good. It's just, one's going to be 9-8 or 8-9, and one's going to be 10-7. And then to put my bow on Carol with wins for the other two, I'm going to say the same with Saints. They're somewhere between 3 and 6 wins, and the Panthers are somewhere between, I would say, 6 and 6. They're somewhere between 7 and 9 wins. I'll put the Panthers at 7 and 9 wins. Worst case scenario for the Panthers, I think, would be 6 and 11 or 5 and 12. But yeah, that's just my quick things on the Falcons. Is really what is Michael Penix Jr. I buy into it. It's just he's got to show it, and then with the Buccaneers, is just they keep getting better and better. So let's see how much better they keep getting.
I feel like the Falcons, I akin them to like the Bears last season. I want to not kind of like a better version of the Bears. I want to see as from an NFL narrative standpoint.
That defense also needs work though.
Yes, I want to see them actually put it all together because people have this lasting impression of Penix being solid towards the end of last season, which he was okay.
I think he'll be good. I think he'll be good. I'm not here to say he'll be great. That's what I want to clarify with my comments.
Yeah.
That's where I buy the stock. But I do think Bijan is legit. I do think Bijan's one of the better running backs in the NFL.
Oh, yeah. Definitely agreed with Bijan for sure. But I mean, the big thing with this is just the offense that they have around Michael Penix Jr. They built up this offensive line. They have the weapons in Drake London and Bijan. Do we see Kyle Pitts finally put something together? Who knows?
Nope.
Probably not.
Nope.
But we really got to see about that. And funny enough, Felipe Franks is also on the Falcons as a tight end right now, so that's good for them. Arkansas boy there, but he's their 4th string tight end. But anyways, is Penix that guy like you were alluding to? I mean, the defense, like you said, still needs work. They even have your Canada's own David Onyemata still there.
Yep. Matthew Bergeron too.
Yeah, for sure. Just are the Falcons going to show that they can actually take away the division crown from the Buccaneers? And I remember for the longest time, this division was so flip floppy, and the Buccaneers have been just so consistent. That being said, me personally, I'm fading the Falcons, but I do think that their ceiling, they could win the division. That's probably the ceiling. What I think will happen is they will be about the same as they were last season, either just barely missing the playoffs or getting in at that last wild card spot. Yeah.
That's my take on the Falcons. They're either going to win the division or they'll just miss out on the playoffs. There's no in between. I think it's basically with the playoffs. I think it's going to be 2 teams from the North, 2 teams from the East, 2 teams from the West, and then whoever wins the South. That's what I think the playoffs will be. Unless, for example, you have a division like the West or the North where it's only 1 team, and then like the East has like 3, like last year. No, the East had 2 last year. The North had 3. I want to see Atlanta succeed just because I feel like it's always been the same thing for years now, where it's like they've been finally putting the pieces together. Like, they drafted Pitts, they drafted London, they drafted Bijan, they drafted Penix. There's no more excuses for the Atlanta Falcons. If they're not good this year, I'm not saying it's a trip it to the studs, but you need a change. Like Terry Fontenot's been there for 4 seasons. They have not made the playoffs. I don't think they made the playoffs in God, I don't even remember the last time the playoffs was. I think maybe in 2019 or 2018. When they were the crop of the things. I know they lost to the Eagles in 2017, because 2016 they were really good and then they coughed a 28-3 lead. That's just the big thing with the Falcons is just
2017.
See, they haven't made the playoffs since 2017. So, and the Buccaneers, even you look with or without Brady, they've been to the playoffs every year since 2020. They've been in the playoffs 5 seasons in a row. They've won a Super Bowl. They nearly got back to an NFC Championship game had it not been for dumb play calling and Todd Bowles running a blitz 0 against Matthew Stafford, which does not work. And even in 2024 it was too. They really gave the Lions all they could handle in that divisional round playoff game as well. So the Buccaneers have the tools. It's just up to them to see how far they go. But for right now, and week 1 too, this is another exciting week 1 matchup is Falcons Buccaneers, and then they also play later in the year, I believe week 15, they match up on Prime for the Thursday night game. So it's really one of those 2 teams to win the South. It's just, does Atlanta put it together or does the Tampa Bay Buccaneers prevail and they just find a way to find a way? That's what I think.
That's why I'm kind of just shifting to the people who have shown me what they are. Because the Buccaneers, credit to them, even I had probably said it on here at one point. Once Brady left, I thought, all right, the Bucs, they had their time in the limelight. You can dust them off. They can go back in the cellar. It is what it is. But credit to them, they stayed on top of things as much as I hate it. Their defense is solid. Like you said, they're a bunch of dogs. They're really good. And then they, like you said, the very ever consistent Mike Evans, future Hall of Famer.
Emeka Egbuka, Jalen McMillan.
Yeah. I'm gonna miss Marshawn Lattimore owning Mike Evans. I'm gonna miss that a lot.
Fights on the side.
I know. But I mean, like you said, he gets kind of undervalued, but I think it's just because he doesn't necessarily. He's never really the best wide receiver in the league, but he is definitely the most consistent wide receiver in the league. And like you said, Emeka, I can never say that guy's name right.
Emeka
Egbuka. Gotcha. Yeah. And Bucky Irving, he's the fantasy darling this season for sure.
They got ballers on the defensive side of the football too. They have something that Atlanta doesn't. The Buccaneers have a ferocious D line. They have really good linebackers. They've got a really good secondary. The Buccaneers are a team that's very underratedly built completely. And they've also gotten better on the offensive line side of the ball. Something that with Brady, look, there were some moments, Donovan Smith, where they were good. They weren't great, but now they had the guy from Duke last year. They have Cody Mauch with one of the best football smiles out there, Tristan Wirfs. Graham's his name, Graham something. But the Buccaneers are a team that's like gonna be they'll be there. It's just really from the South, who's the team to win? Is it the Falcons or is it the Buccaneers? And for right now, I'm going with the Buccaneers.
Yep, I agree with you. And they're pretty much the staple of the reclamation quarterback project with Baker Mayfield there. So it's worked out for him. And until I see the Falcons put it together and actually dethrone them, I mean, I'm just going to have to stick with the Buccaneers to maintain that consistency, which is crazy. Coming from the NFC South, actually saying that that there's a consistent winner.
I mean, we'll see what this year with the East if there's a consistent winner too, because it's always flip flop there. But we've run through all 16 teams of the NFC. The NFC is probably, I would still say, is the better division in football. You have more clear cut teams of, I think with the NFC too, you're going to find out really quickly, which teams are the ones that are going to be serious in January versus the teams who, are going to be on the back end. You're going to find that divide out, I think, very quickly early on. Like you're going to see basically the elite separate themselves from the good, separate themselves from the bad. But that's just that. We got our winners. We've done this again. 6th annual NFC Preview Show. This one was been for the Matthews. For Matt Datsu, I'm Griff. Episode 378 in the books. We got Patriots talk coming. I can't wait. Hope you can too. Have a good night, everyone.